Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is brought to you by the Friends in Recovery community, a thriving network of individuals who are fighting back against the stigma of addiction. Join our hosts as they speak up about the real issues of addiction, treatment, and recovery. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, here are your Friends in Recovery.
Welcome, everybody, to the Friends in Recovery podcast with Jersey Ed. I'm your host, Jersey Ed. One of my co-host today, Buckeye Bambi, and our special guest, Rob Hooper. This week's guest is Rob Hooper. We're going to be talking about spiritual principles, so stay tuned for some great recovery. We're going to be talking about that in a couple minutes, but we don't have Beth here today. We didn't have Bambi last couple weeks. We have Rob here. Rob's going to be a reoccurring personality on this show, and he's here to talk about some of the spiritual principles, the steps, the principles of each step. So, but how's everybody doing? Everybody okay?
Hanging in there.
So good. The rain is gone, the sun is out.
Good. I know it's just Beth is sick. That's where she's at today. And do we, she did call out sick, but do we pay her or she's not on? We don't pay her for this one.
You didn't pay me for my week.
Okay, then Beth, you're not getting paid, Beth. Oh God. Anyways, but and I know we missed you, Bambi. I know you've been kind of doing some things personally, and my prayers were with you. So anything you need from us, please let us know.
Thanks, Ed. I couldn't, and I will just let all of our viewers know, my brother is on hospice and he's nearing the end of his time on this earth. And honestly, I couldn't have got through this time. I mean, of course, it's never easy, but Friends in Recovery has been the biggest support to me. So my prior to sober shout outs is to Friends in Recovery and my family that I have gained through Friends in Recovery.
Absolutely. I have to agree with you on that, Bambi, because there's a lot of people just, we rely on each other as Friends in Recovery. We're on recovery here. And that's how we have to network ourselves and take care of ourselves. But this Friends in Recovery thing is definitely something special. There's always somebody there for you, always something, something's going on and somebody's there in the middle of the night and middle of the day. And we're talking about all our meetings, guys, because we do 2 AA meetings a day, 7 days a week. And if you want some information on it, go to our website. I'll give that to you in a minute. But a couple of things I want to just get out of the way before we get into our topic today. It is Courage Month. It is still April, so it is Courage Month. We will be talking about that as one of the spiritual principles. And also, the book club started already, and we will be doing the book club every Monday night at 8:15 Eastern Standard Time. So the book club we're reading Emmett Fox's The Sermon on the Mount, and we're studying that. We're going through that. And
I'll include all the information for that meeting. If anyone wants to join us, I'll put it in the show notes. So just check out the show notes, because it is a rockin' book club.
It is absolutely. So, if you need that, email us or whatever. But if you want to get a hold of us, or if you want to talk to one of us about the book club, you can call 800-989-6504. Email us, help@friendsrecoverypodcast.com. Beth and Bambi and I will have our, I'm used to saying Beth the last few weeks. I have to say Bambi now. But Bambi and I have our addresses underneath. You'll see that. Friends in Recovery website is friendsinrecoverycommunity.org. You can get all those meetings listed there. And we will put the link to the book club up there also, because it's going to become a weekly thing. We're going to keep reading through books and all that. So just please give us an email. And what else? The hearts. Bambi, purple hearts. There she is. Rob, red hearts. He has some red hearts up there. And Beth, we have to give Beth a shout out. We have to give somebody has to give Beth orange hearts. I know black
hearts.
Black. I'd have to change this. Black hearts. and Jersey Ed, blue hearts. So and remember, give those hearts out. Comment below. You guys comment on Facebook Live. We get that, but the tally counts when you're here on YouTube and giving us those hearts. So we really want to kind of push about that. Bambi, see, there is another flaw in my script here. Do you know why?
I do not.
Because we don't have a fucking intern. Excuse my language. So
if you had one, your script would be up to date.
It would be, because this script, and I rely on myself to update this, and that's not good.
Oh, that's not good, y'all. Trust me.
No, it's not good. That's why Bambi.
Relate to that.
Yeah, Rob knows too. We worked together for many, many years. No, but seriously, I know we joke around and all that. And if anybody's interested, please, just send us an email if you're interested in being an intern. Bambi and I can definitely use some help with running the show, running some meetings. It'll be good service work. So if anybody out there is listening and you have more than 6 months of sobriety, please give us, shoot us an email or give us a phone call. We would really appreciate the help, and it'll help you guys, kind of stay sober. I like to thank all our donors who made the show possible. Don't forget that Fire Network is part of the Friends in Recovery podcast. For that information, go to our website, and you'll see exactly what the Fire Network is. Sober shout outs. Bambi, I know you have a couple sober shout outs. It's that time of the meeting, the show. We have some sober shout outs.
I do. I have John L., who is not only one of our Friends in Recovery, but he's a host, and he's been with us a long time, and he had 4 years of sobriety.
John A., congratulations.
Yeah. And another one of our Friends in Recovery, and she fills in and hosts, used to do it all the time, but fills in now. She's a busy lady, is Karla F., who has 3 years.
3 years with Karla. Wow. It's amazing that their sobriety dates are in the same month. Karla and John, they were here from the beginning. Seriously, they really were, right from the beginning of the meetings, not the podcast, but the meetings. And John, we call him the manager. As a matter of fact, he has a Yeti cup that says he's the manager. So John does a lot for us. John's always there when we need him, and Karla is too. Both of them have busy lives, and we appreciate everything that they do for us. Rob, any sober shout outs?
I don't have any sober shout outs. When Bambi gave hers, I was trying to think, do I have any? And I cannot think of any. So hopefully no one will say, Rob, you forgot about me. I can't think of any right now.
Well, he's thinking about you if he forgot about you there.
Yeah, I am.
That's it.
Really
there you go. That's it. He's thinking about you. And of course, the standard shout out that should be in ink here, but is for Soberpod, guys. We love Soberpod. Go check them out. Give a shout out to Carl and Chelsea. They do a wonderful job. I really listen to them. I mean, seriously, they do an amazing job. Carl is just an amazing guy. He does amazing things for people. He reaches out to Hand of AA, and he's always there. I've never had a time that if I called him, he wouldn't call me back or whatever. So Carl, please, thank you so much for everything you do. So look for us on all of our social media, Friends in Recovery communities. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment, and give us 5-star reviews. And one thing
turn
about
those notification bells on.
Yes.
So you are notified with every new upload of one of our podcasts.
That's right. It's funny because I have to see again, intern. We need an intern, because Carl puts those little bell things and a thumbs up. Like way before this, like it doesn't like sync up. So you must have some system. So I have to figure out where it is, and we have to put it in that part of the show so Carl can just go about his business. So if you guys are watching, you've probably seen little thumbs up and a little click button go over. We will have that fixed next week. So here it is, guys. It's you know what time it is, right?
Question of the week.
Question of the week.
There it is. Question of the week. Thank you, Carl, for that explosion there. And the question of the week, it's simple. It's simple. And this was geared towards Bambi because we know her. I also want to make a twist on this. Maybe we can each give each other a label. Okay. What do you think? I'll read the question of the week and then I'll let everybody know. So the question of the week is, if you had a warning label, what would it say? If you had a warning label, what would it say? So that's why I said, why don't we give each other a warning label too? So Bambi, you laughed at this one. You like this. You lit up. I know you're having some hard times here and a little struggling. But when I came up with that question of the week, you laughed a little bit. So I'm going to start with you.
Well, for me, the first thing that came into my mind, and I think it fits pretty well, maybe not when life is going very smoothly and things, but lately, especially the last month, it would have to be proceed with caution.
Proceed with caution.
Or approach with caution. I'm telling you, I've my poor husband, you always take it out on the ones you love the most, right? So I get overly sleepy or overly irritable or something, and he'll say something and I'll just jump right on top. I'm like boom, boom, boom. And so proceed with caution for sure.
Proceed with caution. So just to let you know, that is the big thing going around the office here for years that we've been talking about. Proceed with caution with Bambi. We labeled that for you a long time ago. I'm just kidding. We have no office. We have no interns. It's me and Bambi. That's it. So, Rob, what about you? What's your answer?
But I have one for you, Ed.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
The first thing that came to mind with Ed is I'm going to give him a speed limit.
A speed limit.
So yours is going to be a sign, because sometimes he gets going like 1,000 miles an hour, and then other times he's, keeping the speed limit, but he needs a speed limit sign.
I do need a speed limit. You're right. I do. That's a good one, Bambi. I like that.
I think Stacy will like that one too.
Carl, can you cut all this out, Carl? Or at least when Stacy watches it, can you have it hooked so she can't see it? So no, that is very good. But yeah, proceed with caution. I mean, that's good. What situation we're in, and I think for me, that would kind of be for me too. But before I tell you what mine is, Rob, what would be your warning label?
So this totally caught me off guard. And I was thinking of a spinoff from Bambi's. When entering into a relationship with me, enter at your own risk.
Enter at your own risk. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
I like that.
I like that too, but is that good or bad, entering at your own risk?
So it's really up to the individual, because as you know, Ed, I can set some healthy boundaries.
You can, so absolutely.
It may sting a little bit, and I can be sometimes direct in a way where people say, man, why'd you have to say that? Or say it like that. So enter at your own risk.
All right. I like that. And
I love it.
The situation that Rob was talking about. Do you mind if I tell him what happened?
No.
All right. I mean, I'm sure I told it on here before, but Rob and I have been working together we worked together 18 years at least before I left the company. But there was one time I came to his office, and him and I are very good friends. And one time he came to his office, and I forgot whatever it was. It was just what we were talking about, something. And I knocked on his door, and it was lunchtime. I'm like, all right, this is a perfect time to sit down with him and talk to him, and really go over things. And I knocked on the door. He said, Rob, you got a minute? Yeah, but after lunch, I'm going to eat my lunch, and you come back after lunch. I'm like, what? I'm like, do you know who you're talking to? I didn't say that. I'm like, I was taken back a little bit, but then I walked away. It's okay. I walked away. I'm like, that was great. That was great, because I can't do that. If somebody knocked on my door and said, hey, I couldn't say that. Just, I just couldn't. But that's, that Rob has those healthy boundaries.
Healthy boundaries for sure.
I know. I love it. I'm working on them though. It's progress, not perfection. Better makes better.
Right.
Yeah. So my warning label would be, and it's pretty simple. Stacy knows this. Don't bother me after 9 p.m. That's it. Don't bother me after 9 p.m. because I'm sleeping, or if I'm tired, I'm going to be a little ornery, or I'm just not going to listen to you, or whatever the thing is. It's just 9 p.m. because I get up at 4 o'clock every morning, and by 9 p.m. I'm done. I'm done. So that would be my warning label. But hey, everybody has great warning labels. And Rob, I couldn't pick a better warning label for you than what you picked. I'll be honest with you. And I mean that in a loving, caring way. So.
And I received it that way.
So guys, so now that we have all our labels picked up, and maybe Carl can put some labels across us or something here, but I doubt it. So, but
don't ask him to do anything else. I already asked him to give me some long curly hair.
Yeah, okay, we'll have to stop that. So I'll have to. If you give her long curly hair, we'll be all happy. So Facebook Live, real quick. As you guys know, we have Facebook Live going on. Dave is here. Neil, good morning to you. John is here. John B.
That's my best friend.
That's your best friend. That's right. Yes. And Bob M is here. Bob is listening to us as he's jumping in the shower. So thanks, Bob. We really didn't need that visual. So
he tends to be naked a lot for our meetings.
Does. He does. I know. And I had him over my
step 4, though.
There you go. Get naked, right? So guys,
that's his warning label.
That's his warning label that he jumps in the shower.
A possible naked man on board or something.
That's right. Yes. I'm going to have to go a little step further here. Bob stayed at my house a couple of times, and I've never seen him naked, just to let you guys know. All right. And he never told me he was getting naked. All right. So we love you, Bob. So anyway, so today's topic is going to be our spiritual principles. So we bring Rob on every quarter, and we talk about 3 of the spiritual principles. So last quarter, we talked about honesty, hope, and faith. So we're on step 4, which is the month for today, courage, integrity, and willingness. And we're going to cover those 3 spiritual principles of those 3 steps. And we're going to kind of just go through them, what they mean to us, what Rob, what they mean to Rob, because Rob is, Rob is big on the spiritual principles. And I always say, if I'm the smartest one in a room, I better get out. So that's why I have Rob on here, and that's why I like to learn. And it's just it's good to hear all this. So Rob, I'm going to bring you in right away, and let's hear some of your thoughts about these spiritual principles. If you want to start each step as you go through it, or if you want to just talk on each principle, it's up to you.
Yeah, we'll see how it flows. I think the first thing that I want to say is, with regards to steps 1, 2, and 3. When we look at the 12 steps, those are our foundation steps. It's important for me to get honest with myself. And then after coming out of the fog, suddenly I'm realizing, okay, I don't want to go back to that. How do I go forward? So I need some hope to keep moving forward. And after I build on the hope, now I want to know that I actually can do this. And so that's why it requires developing and having some faith, and believing that, this God that I've been developing, or this higher power that I've been developing, these relationships that I've been developing with my sponsor, hopefully we have a home group by the time we're on the 3rd step. I'm beginning to develop some faith now that, you guys have my back. And so now we're bringing these spiritual principles into the 4th step. So now I'm entering in, I don't know if I mentioned it last week, but the forefathers, the founders of the program, they used to, really look at 3 basic spiritual principles, and that was honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness, and how they stream through all 12 steps. And so while, yes, the spiritual principle for step 4 is courage, we also can look at honesty, because now I'm challenged to get honest about this inventory. Get honest with myself about what I did, how did I show up? And I jotted down a couple notes. And one of the things that I will say with looking at steps 4, 5, and 6, where 1, 2, and 3 is the foundation, 4, 5, and 6, we call those steps the exploration steps. So now I'm getting ready to explore me. And one of the things that I found out for myself, oh my God, am I a walking contradiction? And so step 4 shows me that, how I'm a
I like
walking
that.
contradiction. And, I say, how could you do that to me? I can't believe this happened to me. And I'm really not taking a look at in turn how I've also done it to other people. Not only other people, I'm getting upset about what other people did to me, but step 4 also shows me what I did to myself. And so I'm getting upset with everyone else. And so sometimes people talk about being afraid of step 4 because of everything that they're going to relive, so to speak. And it's an opportunity to embrace, because step 4 was never about dwelling on the past. It was really about taking a bird's eye view and maybe some deep dives so that we can clean it up and see some of the patterns that didn't serve me well. We can begin to take a look at some of the defects that came up, the exact nature of what was going on. We can begin to take a look at some of the positive things. So step 4 isn't about only looking at the negative. It's also about taking a look at the positive. I also say, step 4 shows me how, and you guys have heard this before in different forms and settings, even in yoga, they often say, we have issues in our tissues.
Yeah.
Step 4 definitely shows me the issues that are deep within my tissues, from family origin issues. One of the things for me that is the power of doing the step work, living by the spiritual principles, is something that, to me, Bambi has shown today by being courageous enough to say, yes, I'm going through this, willing to share with the viewers, with us, hey, here's what I'm going through in this part of my life. However, I'm showing up today. If that isn't a miracle, I don't know what is, because when I was going through something before, it was all about me. It wasn't about giving and being of service, because don't you know all that I'm doing for my loved one over here? Give me pity, give me everything that I need. Let me know that, hey, you're doing a great job.
Yeah. But look at the courage I have, right? We can even turn this around. Hey, I'm courageous. I was just
right.
I was just reading. Oh, go ahead, Rob.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just reading the Sermon on the Mount in the Bible this morning, and there's a lot of that in there. The self-pity, don't kind of dwell on, don't proclaim yourself, keep that between you and God. Don't, make sure you help the needy and don't tell anybody about it. I love all that stuff, because when I was out there doing all this, I had courage, but I had the courage because I had to hide behind it, because I was afraid of who I was. I had to hide behind it because I wanted you to see what I was doing, because I was doing so much other bad shit in my life that I wanted to hide behind, make this false thing of courage. Today, courage to me, Rob, is crying, is feeling my emotions. And this morning on the meeting, Tony said it perfectly. It's a process. Me and Bambi were sharing some things on a meeting this morning, and it's a process that we have to go through. And a lot of us were denied that process when we were growing up. So the courage to me is to cry, is to be upset, is to come on here and say, hey, listen, guys, we just, and I didn't know if I was going to share this or not, but we just put our dog down today, right before he came on the show. And I was on the meeting before that. I was very, 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 very upset. And, we did it here at the house. And the courage for me, I told my wife I was not going to be in the room, right? But something told me to be in the room with her, because it's not her responsibility. It's our responsibility. And the dog gave us love, right? And the dog gave us everything we needed for the last 17 years. So why shouldn't I be in that room with them? And that's the courage I have today, is to do things that are hard for me to do and know I'll be all right when I get to the other side of it. Right? And that's what step 4 is: make a search and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. And I know if I dig deep into that stuff, I have the courage to get through it, because I know on the other side of this step, I'll be okay. And that's how I have to practice my principles in all my affairs. And this courage is, I'm sorry I went off on a tangent here, but I had I was like biting my tongue to really talk about courage, and because it can be a false kind of a false kind of a look for somebody, because it was for me for all those years.
Mm-hmm. And to me, you really didn't go off on a tangent. You really spoke to the heart of what this is all about, mm-hmm. and why we do the work. And so when you said it, it just brought to mind, I want to read step 4. We made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. And what's interesting to me is everything that you described, everything that Bambi is going through. In the step itself, it says this fearless moral inventory. Mm-hmm. However, the spiritual principle is courage. And so courage doesn't mean that I don't have fear. It means in spite of the fear, I'm still moving forward. Mm. So in spite of whatever feelings may have come up for you, going in the room, recognizing, wait a minute, this is a time for us to share our experience with this. You know? And again, like Bambi. And so that's been my experience too, that there are some things in life, looking at me, looking at how am I going to move forward. There may be some fear, but I'm courageous enough to still look at it. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, for me, step 4 is about showing me what makes me tick. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes people say, do you know yourself? I think somebody may know, some famous person said an unexamined life is not worth living. Mm. And I want to say it was Socrates, and so
like that.
Me, mm-hmm. Step 4 is about examining my life and taking a look at what makes me tick. Mm-hmm. What are some of the patterns that work? What worked? What didn't work? And what do I get to change? So for me, again, I'm bringing, after having done steps 1 through 3, I'm bringing God into step 4. I'm not going into this by myself. So that I can look at my life through the lens of God's love. So it's not simply looking at it with this shame and regret and this remorse. Will those feelings come up? Yeah, hopefully they will. It's an indication I'm not a sociopath. It's an indication that,
we're
some
human.
things that I did or experienced, I felt them. And the power in this is me understanding that I can actually go through life today, feel whatever I feel, and not cause more harm or pain to others or myself. I can literally show up even though I'm afraid of what may come, who may say something, or what they may think of me after, I've disclosed something about what I'm going through.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
the first part of step 4, when you're doing, you're listing your resentments and things, it's real easy to do that part because you get to go through and but to turn it back around and say, what was my part in that? It really does take courage to look at the bare bones. What was my responsibility? It's it's a really tough thing to do. It really does take a lot of courage to, some situations, at least when I was doing my 4th step with my sponsor, it's like, well, I don't have any responsibility for that, and, you get through the first few and then you're like, oh yeah, I guess I did do that. And I guess that is my part in it, but it really does take courage to do that deep dive. It's hard.
Yeah. And Bambi brought something to mind talking about the resentments, because as we know, that is an area that we do look at when we're looking at this inventory. And the key is breaking it into parts, and different sponsors will do it a different way. And so not this arbitrary, just overall look at my life, but, taking a look at different areas of my life. And so now we're talking about literally going from resentment. Some people say to forgiveness. I often look at it as going from resentment to acceptance, accepting that this did happen, accepting, as Bambi said, you know what, this is my part in it. Well, what if something horrendous has happened to me by way of some form of abuse? and I was a child. How is that my fault? What's my part in it? Well, quite naturally, we know if we were a child and something has happened to us, okay, we were the victims then. However, the victim mindset is me carrying it on into now I'm 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, and I'm still living in that. And I'm saying, this is why I'm showing up today, because that happened to me back there. And so with the resentment, we get to take a look at, oh, this is my part today. I get to clean that up.
We instead of being the victim, we're playing the victor role at that point, which is you're saying, because we know we can play the victim role. And I said 1,000 times on here, I love being the victim. It feels so good, right? At the time, you don't feel sorry for bullshit, but and when you think about it, it's like, okay, but I'd rather be the victor. I'd rather be that person that helps everybody and helps myself and sets a good example. Rob, I want to go to the next step and the next spiritual principle is integrity, right? Integrity. Are you pretty much done with the
we're good, because the setup is basically distinguishing fantasy from reality, and that leads me into the fifth step. So I didn't know if you wanted to say something else.
No, go ahead. You can talk about it. I did want to break it down a little bit because it's pretty interesting for me what integrity means. So I break it up into INTEGRITY. So in being, bringing it into my life, right? That's what it means to me. TE in Latin means you, right? So I'm bringing this integrity into me. And gritty, I mean, you have to be pretty gritty to have integrity. It takes a lot of balls to stand up and say, listen, this is not how we do it. And listen, this is not what I'm going to do. This is not what I'm about. This is not what my life is a little bit different today. I have integrity. And that does have to cause some grit, because like, even if we go back to what Rob and I were talking about, when he set boundaries, he had integrity for himself, and he had to be a little gritty to get it packed into, out to get the word out for him, for himself, for you. So it's that's my kind of look on integrity. But Rob, you have a little bit more.
No, I mean, we're doing this together. What I will say in reference to the boundaries, with step 4 and going into step 5, step 4 allowed me to take a look at, if I may say, the little boy in me that didn't feel like he really had a voice, didn't know how to speak up for himself. And so the step work process gave me a platform to begin to take a look at that. And what does that mean? And how does it look today? So in that particular instance, it looked like me lovingly say, hey, I'm going to have some lunch first. Because it was important, However, it was born out of, for me, step 5, again, you're talking about integrity, is saying I'm worthy. So when I look at step 5, it's saying I'm worthy. Yes, I did this, and yes, I did that. Yes, this happened to me, and yes, I, experienced these things. However, I'm not the sum total of that. Worthy. For me, step 5 is also an opportunity to learn how to not live in secrecy, because a big part of my life was secrecy. So we're talking about step 5, admitted to God, to myself and another human being, so I've heard, I haven't done it with sponsees, nor was it done with me, but I know some have literally had 3 chairs to represent when they sat down to do it. Here's God, here's you, and here's another human being. And so taking a look at more in a physical sense, this admission, because as we know, secrecy kills, at the very least, secrecy holds me back. Dr. Bob and Bill W., they looked at, step 5 being so important. They say, if you don't quickly, take a look at reviewing step 5, you're almost certain of relapse. And they talk about, Bill W. and Dr. Bob in the beginning, they talk about how we make excuses about why we're not going to do it. Some people are resigned to, this is going to my grave.
Yeah.
So again, It's that fear of, how are people going to see me? What are they going to think? What are they going to say? And so again, for me, this is a step that frees me from that bondage of self, from that, I'll even call it being addicted to what people are going to think of me.
About me. Absolutely.
So concerned about how people are going to see me, So it's important when we're embarking on step 5 to have someone that we really care about and that cares about us, someone that we can trust, someone that knows something freaking about the 12-step program.
Yes, absolutely. So I got a question on step 5 for you with integrity. I'm sorry, did you have?
No, go for it. I'll bring it back.
All right. So it says admitted to God, to ourselves, and another human being, the exact natures are wrong. Again, that's an integrity. So, but why that another human being? Like, why isn't it good enough for God and myself? I mean, when it comes to the end of things, I'm going to be facing God. I'm not going to be here with you, Bambi or Rob. But why is it so important? And I kind of know the answer to this, but why is it so important to have that other human being in there? Because I could be embarrassed. My integrity can go down the shitter. I can lie. I can't lie to God. I can't lie to myself, but I can lie to that other human being. What's your thoughts on that human being stuck in there for the, for that part and the integrity part of it?
Yeah. Well, where Ed said stuck in there, I say divinely placed in
okay, yeah. I like that.
Rob, because we require perception checkers. So it's easy for me to say, well, I already talked to God about it. Most of us aren't consistently spending quiet meditation time to hear back from God. And it's important to also invite someone else into my life on a deeper level so that I can get some guidance, clarity, perception of how I'm viewing it or seeing it. Because sometimes I have a tendency to overstate something, to look at it in a harsh and very critical way. And so again, this other human being has a way of softening that for me. And then I can go to the total opposite.
I was just going to say that.
I can
exactly
minimize it.
the other way around.
Bambi. Go ahead.
It's exactly. You could also, instead of overstating it, you could understate it, and you could say, but if you, like with my sponsor, I mean, she would call me out and she would say, and and it's also, I think it's a humbling experience when you open up and are so vulnerable. And I mean, those are qualities that we, the humility, the to be honest with someone else, it just adds that much more. But I know my sponsor, really, she would call me out and say, okay, and what else? What other character defect was popping up? What else?
Yeah. And that's where the gritty part can come in too, when you have to really talk to another human being. I'm sorry, go ahead, Rob.
Yeah. So, Ed knows, and definitely Bambi knows, being with me a little bit, I'm big on words or even phrases. So for me, it's not so much that I have to do this as much as I get to do it.
Yes.
Because I have a tendency to not be as forthcoming about who I am. So like Bambi said with the sponsor, well, what about this, character defect? So another person, again, with the perception checker, can share with me and support me in seeing the exact nature of it. And again, the way I have it may not be the way it is. And so step 5 is an opportunity for me to see, again, distinguishing fantasy from reality.
Yeah, true.
The way I'm recalling the past may be distorted. And so someone now grounding it and giving me a clearer picture of it is so important. And again, remember early on, I said, the how threads through all of the steps. And so now with step 5, I have an opportunity to be open-minded about how I once saw me or this situation or another person. Now, suddenly, I'm more open about how I'm seeing it.
Absolutely. The other thing too, our program was built on talking to another human being. Like, Yeah, and listen, God's an important part of my life, but at the beginning, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives become manageable, and then two, came to believe power greater than ourselves. It doesn't even say God yet at that point, right? But we admitted. So when we admit something, we're admitted to. So we're talking to another human being before some of us might even be talking to God. I mean, think about that,
That's right.
And eventually some of us come around, some of us don't, and that's okay. Whatever your perspective is on a higher power, God, or whatever it is, we're talking to another human being first. And I think, to me, that is the integrity of that is that, you're just, like Bambi said, we're being honest. We're being who we really are, and here in this steps, the principles here, it says that handout that Rob I got from him a long time ago, an adherence to a code of values. Right? When I was out there, I didn't have a code of values. Right? I'd do anything, anyone, anywhere to get whatever, anything I wanted. Right? Sincerity, honesty, and candor. I had none of that when I was using, right? So today I have all that. That's integrity. It's part of integrity. And again, I know I kind of knew the answer to that, but still there's people out there saying, my God is doing this to me. Why should I, whatever, that's step two, but step four is like, okay, well, you got me believing in a God. I mean, you got me believing in a God, step five, sorry, but why do I have to go to another step further and tell somebody all my embarrassing shit that I did, And again, I don't think anything I ever told my sponsor, he was ever embarrassed about, or he called the police on me about, or whatever, because I'm sure he did it 10 times over.
And I wanted to say something to that point. And I think it's also important in step five that my sponsor is willing to share something about themselves as well.
Yes. Absolutely.
Because that also gives me a sense of comfort in knowing that I'm not the only one that has done something like this or experienced something like this. So again, when we're talking about doing this step, it's important that the person that we're working this step with is also willing to disclose some of their past that, may seem embarrassing. And that's the importance of this step five and this other human being. And the integrity is also, and then we can shift to step six, is taking a look at integrity also being my feet and my words are matching. I'm not, doing one thing and saying, something else, or saying one thing during the day, but at night I have a whole different behavior system going on, a way that I'm showing up for life.
Yeah.
And again, not that this step work process is about, behavior so much as fundamentally transforming how we show up for life, which the spillover is I will behave differently. But, doing the step work process, this spiritual process is a transformation from within, because I'm seeing life differently. Born out of that, I want to show up different.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what we have to show up different if this is going to work. That's number one. Number two, so we had courage, we had integrity. And here's the hardest part of all those three steps, I believe, for me anyways, is step six, is the willingness, right? And that's what step six principle is. We are entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of characters. I mean, I can't hang on to one, not just one little one. I can't really. No, you can't, because then you have to go back again and do it over again. But that's the willingness. Listen, if you're not willing to do that, what else aren't you willing to do? Right? What else aren't you? Like you said, Rob, who am I when I go home at night versus who am I during the day? Does that mask, is there a mask that comes off? Is there a mask that goes on? Or is there no mask? And I think that the willingness of taking that mask off and being, kind of open to everything and willing to have somebody take control of my life, Listen, I had control of my life all those years I was using. I got drugs when I wanted. I beat it up old lady when I wanted. I stole when I wanted. That's not life, guys. That's not life. Right? I mean, that's the willingness that I had way back when. There was no integrity there. There was no courage there. It was just a mess, you know. But the willingness is a little different because I can just give it all up and I don't have to worry about any of this stuff. I don't have to worry about covering my tracks. I don't have to worry about looking over my back anymore. I don't have to worry about what I said to Rob and I said to Bambi, and do those two stories match, and when I'm saying it again, you know what I mean? So that's the willingness of just letting it go and just kind of throwing everything up in the air and just let it land where it lands. So,
and you know, that sounds like an easy step, right? I mean, it sounds like became willing to have God remove these defects, you know, to become willing. But if you think about it, and the way that my sponsor told me is, okay, as of this moment, you're willing, you know, what if God actually takes away those character defects? Like, boom, you have to think about it. So you can't sit in self-pity, you know, you can't, you know, you can't ever be dishonest again. What if God removes them? Are you truly ready for that to happen? And I mean, she made me sit on that for a while and really think, what if, you know, what would you do then? Where would you be? What are you ready to truly turn your will and your life over to God and have him do that? You know, remove those. It's tougher. It's a tougher step than I think, you know, you think it is.
Yeah. So I agree 100%. And that's why when we get to step 6, my quote for it, the fight is on now.
Yes, it is.
That's where the fight really, really begins. Because basically what we're talking about, at least for me in step 6, is me maturing and growing up. And sometimes I want to be the Toys R Us kid. I just want to have fun. I just want to play. And now taking a look at, I essentially look at character defects as my survival mode. You know, I develop these when I take a look at step 4 and all of the things that I experienced. In many instances, I needed to protect myself in some shape, form, or fashion. And unfortunately, the tools that I use to protect myself also hurt me and other people. And now I'm at a place where it's so clear that if I continue to hold on to these defects, that the life that I say I want to live is almost impossible. The freedom that I say I want to have, because I'm living in these defects and it's literally robbing me. You wanted to say something, Ed?
Yeah, no, you can keep going, but I was, and you know the Bible a little bit better than I do, because I was just reading about this morning. Like, you know, I forgot where it was in the Bible, but it said basically give up all your worldly possessions so you can have God in your life, right? Are you willing to turn over all your world? I think he was talking to a rich man. I can't remember where it was either in Matthew or in whatever. I forgot where it was. But turning over your worldly possessions to have a better life when you go pass through somewhere. I'm thinking to myself, I gotta get rid of my car. I gotta get rid of my computer. I gotta get rid of this, that, you know, the worldly possessions, right? And I'm thinking, this is just temporary shit that we have here. Right? Because when I move on, it's going to be a different world for me, you know? And am I willing to do that? No, not right now. I don't think so. I'm just being honest with you, you know? But step 6, that's kind of, we're ready to have everything turned over. And I think the other part of it, and Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, you know, if you have a bad eye, you know, it's a log in your eye, you can't see the speck in the other person's eye, and, you know, get the log
in your own. Yeah,
exactly. So, you know, so that's kind of what's going on here. And then the other thing too is, you know, if your right hand is doing something wrong, take your left hand and chop it off. So you have, you know, all that stuff. Right. And I can't believe it's all coming through onto this, what I just read today, but it's so true. I mean, I'm not telling anybody to cut their hands off or poke their eye out, but it's, you know, that's so true about, am I ready to do that? And in this step, am I ready to do that? Obviously it doesn't go that far, but am I ready to give up the control? Am I ready to turn it over to somebody? And Bambi, that was hard.
Yeah, yeah, and it really is. This idea about being entirely ready. It was important for me to realize that this is a process, and that's why the first 5 steps are important, and the spiritual principles that come along with them. We really don't talk about it, but surrender is one of the spiritual principles that's significant in step 1, and then it's significant again in step 4. And so now we're talking about, and not that we talk about this particular spiritual principle, but compassion. It's important that I have compassion for myself, because again, I didn't come here, to necessarily let go of all of this stuff. And now I feel like I'm being tricked. Like I got to let go of this too. I just
The
want
bait
to
and
stop
switch
drinking.
stuff.
Like, hold on, wait a minute now. Some of us look at perfectionism as this wonderful, endearing quality. And more often than not, with perfectionism for me, it is a way for me to procrastinate. And how is that hurting me?
Oh, yeah.
So step 6 is really challenging me to take a look at my approach to life, my attitude about life, my greed. What's the greed about? My sense of envy, and when I want to isolate. Usually it's because I'm pouting because I didn't get my way. So now again, step 6 is, challenging me to take another look at my total self-centeredness, and all of this being anchored in fear that I'm not going to get what I want. Wait a minute, when I want it, because this thing is not just about getting this substance to give me this immediate euphoric relief, but also this defect, making sure that I have what I need, because I didn't maybe, come from a family where they so generously gave. So if I wanted something, I had to manipulate. I had to deceive in order to get what I wanted. So to think that I'm going to come to step 6 just ready to surrender, for most of us, it is, a Kodak moment at best.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on that part of the willingness to give everything over? I mean, obviously, if you have somebody like you said, I had to manipulate, I had to do this, had to do that to get what I needed. A lot of us had to get to get what we needed in life. But if a sponsee came to you, Rob, and said, I can't turn everything over. I'm willing to turn something over, but I can't turn everything over just yet. What's your response to that?
Well, I have all kind of catchy, snappy phrases. So for me, can't lives on Won't Street. When the sponsee says, I can't do it, I can't turn it all over. No, you won't do it. And so again, this is about taking a look at the root of it. You're not willing to do it. You won't do it. What's going on behind it? What's the fear? And that's what we get to take a look at. Are you at least willing to consider to hold on to this still at this stage will also bring about this consequence, or continue to call, we don't talk about it a lot, but Bill W. did talk about emotional sobriety. So holding on to some of these defects will not allow me the emotional sobriety, and I remain bound to this old way of thinking. And that's why, again, the spiritual principle of open-mindedness comes into this as well, because am I willing to be open that, like, there may be another way, So the willingness also for me shows up with me saying, okay, I can take a look at a different way, and I'm willing to continue doing the rest of the steps to allow the willingness to catch up later.
So you're saying that it doesn't have to be 100% willingness, just open-mindedness to take a look at these character defects. Because, I did steps over and over and over. But the first time like Bambi said, it was the hardest step to do. And, I wasn't willing, but fear, right? You said fear. This is a fear-based step if you don't do it correctly. Like, I'm afraid to do all this stuff because what if my my coping mechanism doesn't work on the other side of that? What if I don't get what I want? What if, I'm not
And,
that good?
do you hear how one is not going to experience the emotional freedom with that? Because now, you're
Yes.
living in anxiety. And that's why, again, we talk about the spiritual principles of faith. Because what if it doesn't? And that's where, if I do what I always did, I get what I always got.
Mhm.
So now, again, we're talking about, again, with step two, continuing to do the same thing, expecting a different
Mhm.
result. That's
Yeah.
why I truly believe the steps are divine in order, because they understood by the time we got to step 6, we may not be entirely ready to give it all.
Yeah, exactly. And you hit the nail right on the head. Anxiety, right? Anxiety. That is trying to control things. What's going to happen, right? That, to me, that is the anyways. How can I control this? How can I control? Okay, when I get what I want, this is the way I got it. And now if I don't do that, I'm not going to get it. Maybe I don't need it, but the anxiety of holding on to that, right? Holding on to all that stuff that we don't need to. Oh, I'm full of anxiety. Well, let's see why you're full of anxiety. Little anxiety is good. There's nothing wrong with it. It keeps us safe.
Healthy
It
anxiety.
keeps us healthy. It keeps us on the right track. It keeps us thinking correctly. It keeps us making some of those mistakes with our character defects. But overly thinking it, having that, oh my God, I have to do this. Oh my God, I'm working on step 6. Oh my God, I got to turn everything over. I think if you just, to me, it was easy. I just let it go and see where it lands. Like I said, at the beginning, boom, throw it all up in the air, and where it lands, it's going to land. I can't control that, but I can pick the pieces up and make it better once it's there. Because when it's up in the air, there's nothing I can do with it. Once it gets down there and I accept it the way it is, I can start putting those pieces together. And it's not my character defects anymore, because I want to grab it all before it falls and then put it where I want it. When it's down there, I can make it the way it needs to be with guidance from another a sponsor, somebody else. And so that's my thoughts on that piece of, step 6. That's how I look at it anyways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If that makes sense.
The last thing that I'll say, will these defects be gone forever, ever and ever and ever? Yeah, probably not in most of our experiences.
No. They rear their ugly heads.
Mm-hmm.
They do. What we get to do is to continue practicing recognizing the exact nature of what's going on, and in learning how to turn that over sooner rather than later, so that I'm not finding myself continuing to create the same kind of harm. Because our character defects, they also create unmanageability in my life. And so sometimes it's not until we're sick and tired of being sick and tired, just like when we're using, sometimes it's the same process with the defect, and we want to also give ourselves permission to at least look at what's the asset, and how can I incorporate that into my day?
Yeah.
Not that I can just simply, pick an asset out of the bag and say, this is what I'm going to do today. However, the practical function of doing that is at least being mindful of it. So we're practicing shifting the energy, because this was never about God being magic, being a genie in a bottle, this magic wand being waved. Okay, your character defects are,
See ya.
This was always about me being willing to cooperatively, participate with the God of my understanding, so that I'm showing up for me and taking responsibility for my life. Why? Because in step 5, I recognize I am worthy. I am worthy of freedom. I am worthy of living a life that has value. I am worthy of living a life with integrity, and operating in my character defects is not going to allow me, in most cases, to continue live a life of integrity. So they're all thread together so divinely.
Yeah, didn't that Bill Wilson just have it going on back in 1935?
I know. What's up with that?
Right?
That is crazy.
It amazes me. I mean, when we really go in depth like this and we think about it, and I read somewhere that he had worked for days and days, and then when he was just like frustrated, and just God just took his hand and wrote these, basically for him. Yeah. But I mean, really, it just amazes me. Wow.
Yeah. And again, the divine part being recognizing that everyone isn't going to necessarily embrace a higher power or a God. Mm-hmm. And that's where in the fifth step, it's important that I do talk to another human being and live by these spiritual principles until I'm able to, if ever, develop this God of my understanding. Correct. There was something so divine in that, where Bill W. recognized, let's do something a little bit different here. Let's not impose this belief on people this way, because everyone isn't going to prescribe to it that way.
The three spiritual principles, and I was thinking this while you were talking, Rob: courage, integrity, and willingness. I have the courage to show up. I have the courage to, kind of take my own inventory. I have the integrity to tell somebody else and God, the integrity to get out of that, and the willingness not to go back to it anymore, right? Not to go back to any of that stuff anymore. Will some new stuff pop up? Yeah, that's why we have to go back and do it over again, and that's how my alcoholic mind thinks. But if I can remember courage, integrity, and willingness, I'll be okay, because the hardest part of all this is the showing up, is the courage, right? To really list stuff. It gets a little bit easier, I think, when you have the integrity. If you're living on a spiritual plane, you'll have the integrity to talk about what your problems are, and then the willingness, because you don't ever want to go back to that stuff again, right? How perfectly does this line up? And like you said, it gives us freedom and it gives us values. I love how you said that. What these three steps, if we do them in order correctly with another human being, with our sponsor, whoever you choose to do with, it gives us freedom. Yeah, right? It gives us freedom.
And the key to remember for me is, I'm not looking to do this perfectly, because it was not about my behavior. It's about, how I think, and being in a position for my mind to be transformed, for my heart to be renewed. Yeah. And so I know that there's many viewers, you got to say this about step 4 or about step 5 or about step 6. Man, there's so many powerful key points, and I'm sure other people, thought about some. So my encouragement is write them in the chat, so that other people can get those other points, because no one person, it wasn't designed for me or Ed or Bambi to hit them all, but to open up this dialogue and discussion so that we can hear the importance of doing the work.
Absolutely. And you're 100% right, Rob. But please get those comments in here. And we're just a vehicle to start this conversation, and where it ends, who knows? Who knows? This is just what we've learned in all of our years of doing this. Rob, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure having you on here. I think we covered a lot. I mean, in this little bit amount of time, and we got a lot of things out, and I really appreciate it. This is one of my favorite times, is to go through these spiritual principles of the steps. Bambi knows I've been looking forward to this, and I know she has too. And listen, we both had excuses we can easily got out of it, but you know what? We were here for a reason. And thank you, Rob. We really, really appreciate it. The other thing, please, guys, look for our book study on Monday nights at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Right now, we are in the beginnings of doing the Sermon on the Mount, and you can go to our website to check all that out. Rob, thank you again. We're looking forward to
Thanks for having me.
Tackling the next few steps.
I know, I'm already excited for the next 3 principles. I'm like, man, I got to wait 3 months.
I know. Exactly. Well, yeah, we got it. That's what this program is about, having patience and understanding. And we have the next 3 months to work on courage, integrity, and willingness now. And then we can take the next couple steps. Again, everybody, thank you for listening, and Facebook Live. Great questions on there.
This concludes this episode of Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast. Follow us on Facebook for past shows and updates, and enjoy free access to twice daily support meetings. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.